Awesome. Thank you, everyone. This is Coach Jake Des Roches with the Sandpipers of Nevada, and this is our first episode of the Outtouch podcast featuring Coach Mohammad Khadembashi of TSM Aquatics in Southern California. Going to kick things off today to say what is Outtouch podcast, and this is going to be swimming second best podcast. And specifically, hey, if you're a swim coach and you're listening to this, I think it's going to make you a better coach. And if you are listening to this and think it did make you a better coach, reach out to me, outtouchpodcast@gmail.com, and let's schedule some time and get you on the show. Right now, we've got Coach Mohammad Khadembashi of TSM Aquatics here with us this week. We're going to talk about open water swimming, and then we'll go through a workout of mine and get some feedback on that from Coach Mohammad and talk about the workout and the performances there. So, Mohammad, I just want to talk first. You've got a pretty unique background as a swim coach, having not grown up as a swimmer yourself. Can you talk about how you got started with coaching?
Yes, sir. Well, first, hello to everybody seeing this. Thank you, Jake, for inviting me to be a part of this. I know you and I love talking swimming, and we do it a lot, so this is a good opportunity to actually get this going. And anyone who has any feedback, definitely please send it to Jake. Would love to hear and just keep learning. Yeah, dude, I was born and raised in Iran, and swimming was not necessarily the biggest sport we did. Growing up, we just played soccer outdoors and just kept ourselves busy. And my first job actually was teaching swim lessons at a YMCA in Santa Monica.
It's pretty funny.
And
My swim coach growing up, he was from Iran and immigrated here during the revolution.
oh, yes, you're gonna find a lot of those guys for sure. We came here just because my parents wanted to come, um, and thought that they don't want to be there anymore. Um, but yeah, I started teaching swim lessons to little kids in a tiny training pool at a YMCA, and uh, the training pool oversaw the fitness pool over there. And some guy from Montana came and started coaching the swim team, and the swim team kind of exploded. Like the one of the YMCA's in the area kind of got shut down, and everyone came over. So it went from 3 kids to like 60 kids.
Oh, well.
And I would just keep looking over, and it's like, oh man, it's so fun. These guys are training, they're getting better. It looked so fun. And with, similar, most Iranians, you are raised to be a competitive person, to be the best you can be in whatever you do. So it just, I mean, it probably sounds weird, but I found myself in a small little pool. And I kept thinking, like, in these movies that you see that it just goes to a picture like, oh man, I'm just so held back. So I started the conversation with the guy. I'm like, hey, listen, I would love to be able to help. I know nothing about competitive swimming, but I would love to be able to help. I'm a really fast learner. His name is Andy Copley, one of my good friends. They actually coached around for a while, and he's back in SoCal. Anyway, long story short, one day it was like, Mo, if you want to help out, come to the swim meet. Let's start with, going there and getting splits. That's where it all started. I started getting splits at swim meets, and I just studied day and night. I studied. I was watching videos, I was reading books. After a while, he left to go join a different team, and I started going asking coaches. Dave Salo, Dave Kelsheimer in Santa Monica, like, hey, can I come watch practice? Can I come watch practice? Kept listening to different things, went to ASCO clinics, and just kept learning. I truly fell in love with the sport. Up until 2014, I was still at the Y, but 2012, when I first met my wife, I told her, like, you know what, I'm going to be a national team coach, and one day I'm going to take a kid to the Olympics. Few about a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago, she told me when she heard that first, she laughed in her head, but didn't tell me. Like, dude,
Right.
tiny little YMCA, what are you gonna do? Fast forward, you know, put a kid on the national team, uh, was called up in 2019 to be the coach for Team USA at World Cup. Um, and just my career just changed. Just and biggest reason was that. And I asked the coach one time, like, what do you think? What I feel like I do a good. This is years ago. This is almost like 10 years ago. I'm like, Coach, what do you think is a good quality? And she said, I think the fact that you were not a competitive swimmer, that gives you a different eye.
Yeah, definitely.
And it just changes the way you look. And honestly, I'll say this proudly. I'm ignorant to a few things of what is possible, and I push for that. And when you talk to someone, they're like, "Oh man, that's," and I feel like that's also been one of the areas I've been successful. I've been ignorant that, hey man, this might not be possible, but in my mind, I believe that it was, and we can get it done, and we just went for it.
Yeah, that's funny. That's obviously we believe in a lot of the same things, Muhammad, and I've talked about them. At least that idea, like I had a kid ask me this week. We were going like we're doing 25s breaststroke with a free kick with fins and paddles, and this boy's like a 5,500 breaststroker, um, and he went like 12 on the first one, and then like went in 11.5, and I was like, hey, like just go at 10 while you're at it, like 10.9. Like so I'll stop. I'll let you take a break if you go 10.9. And he was like, is that even like real? I was like, I don't know. Like you're going 11.5. Like why can't it be real? You're close enough. Let's make it real. That's something at least in my conversations with you, I've always thought you do well, and that idea of pushing kids and not knowing what's impossible is a good thing sometimes, right? Like
I agree 100%, man. It's one of the things, and I don't know where I learned it, how I picked it up. I always told swimmers, hey, don't define fast. Don't do something and come out like, oh man, that was fast. Don't define fast. Because as soon as you define it, your brain just goes like, oh, that's fast. Can't be faster than that. Oh, that's fast. I'm doing really well. It's like, okay, well, this is good. Maybe I'm capable of a little bit more.
yeah, so just trying to find that, or really try to help the kids find that. Um, so going back to kind of your experience as national team with kids on the national team, just this year again, you had an older swimmer, Ivan Piskovich, um, train with you starting in the last fall, right?
Correct. Towards the end of last April,
Okay.
he joined. Yes.
Okay, so training with you for a little over a year now, and he competed in the open water 10K, got second there at nationals, and earned a spot on the national team. Um, and certainly working with a young man like that in such a short period of time and pulling it off after he was, I mean, not in the best of spots when he came to you.
Correct.
That's a big 1 year change. And like what did you see at open water nationals that, hey, like this year what was successful?
Well, so when he came over, and Ivan, if you see this later, I'm sorry. When he came over, we didn't know where we are, right? I mean, Ivan he was recruited top of his class, right, in the field that he was racing, and he was supposed to be one of our top distance swimmers, especially open water, right? He's
Yeah.
pretty strong there. And apparently during COVID and all that, with different, difficulties during college years, it did not go well. So I really didn't know where he's at. I met him in 2018 once John Urbanchik was running a distance camp, and I was lucky enough to be given that chance to be up there with him. So for a week, I got to know him, Ivan, um, and he was having a blast. That was my only interaction. So when he decided and called me up, like, Coach Mo, I would like to come and train. I want to make the national team. I didn't know where he was at. I was not following up with his, college times and swims and results. So when he came over, we suited up and swam on a Saturday morning just to go 1500, to see where he's at. Again, Ivan, I'm sorry, buddy. He went close to 17 minutes, if was not a bit slower than that. And that's where we started. And we went to JAG last year. That's June age group for those who don't know in SoCal. And he was around 1640. So we found the base where it was and started training. So when we went from there to November, going around 1530 in the mile, and
Yeah,
then push a little bit further, April, make the national team. I knew that the year has been successful in April during the third loop of that
nice.
10K, where Ivan was staying up front and he was leading the majority of the way. Like, okay, you know what? He's got it. We were hoping to be a little higher, so you know, you still, you got to execute the race until the last second. As you know, 10K right now, comes down to the last 200 meters, 500 meters. It just, you got to keep going hard. So it definitely was successful. We had ups and downs a lot. There was a time in October where we were doing a lactate breaststroke set. Dude dives in and he tweaks something in his ankle or his leg. So for like 2 weeks or so, we can't kick. We can't really utilize that leg well. And all we did was, hey, this is what we got. We got to work with what we have. Keep the mind positive. Let's just push forward. And every every little pit stop that we had, he did well. Every pool meet,
That's
he
great.
did well. And he got the goal. The goal was to make national team and get back up there, and he did.
Yeah, that's I mean, it's obviously like as coaches when we're seeing kids along the way up to that focused competition just kind of get a little bit better each time. That's that's really comforting when we're all nervous and scared.
Mm.
And I mean, even as good as that feels, like with even if one of those is bad or a little bit off, you still feel pretty good saying, hey, 4 months later, we saw a big change. Or like, I mean, in your case, from that last spring to the fall, dropping a minute in the 1500, and getting back into prior form and then starting to improve on that, is huge. What I mean, you talked specifically, hey, lap three, and he was leading. Like, was there anything else Ivan was doing in that race that you had planned ahead of time or thought about, hey, if this is going on, like he's going to be in a good spot to finish?
Yeah, we went in talking about that first loop is going to be key. Our
Yeah,
goal was to get to that third buoy in the lead pack, be up front by that third buoy.
yeah,
And
this year's race was, I mean, especially like that. There's still 15
yeah,
guys there after the first loop or so. Um,
well, it's again, it takes a while to get to know an athlete, right?
yeah,
This was the first time. Okay, so here's a bit more background. Ivan came specifically to make the open water national team. I had never seen Ivan race in the open water races,
yeah,
any
wow,
race. I'd never seen the guy race, never seen what the strategy was, didn't know his training background. We planned to go to Western Zones, which, it was in, what was it, September, down in San
yeah,
Diego.
yeah.
And you
But
were
it's
there, right?
canceled.
First race got canceled. We were down to race and got canceled. And then the second race, he couldn't go. So I was really hoping to be able to see how this guy raced.
Yeah.
in September, and never happened. So we just like, okay, well, we just got to keep moving forward. And the strategy was you got to get going. You
Yeah.
got to get going. And I think the prior year in April, Nationals, he did not do well. I mean, yes, not great, um, not a great, I don't know, venue, would you call it, or conditions at the venue. Um, but so he came in with a little bit of fear. Like, okay, well, last year did not go so well. But we had done work that he had never done before, intensity wise, volume wise, and he is and was very fun to work with because he just trusted what we were doing.
Yeah.
He was confident in the work and he trusted what we were doing. If and equality with these type of athletes, they're harder on themselves than we need to be. Makes our job a lot easier. Like if I don't have to be the one dragging you forward and I'm just there to support you, and if you need to push, just push you a little bit, that makes my life easier. So the 10K was the first time I saw Ivan swim open water.
That's
And
that's pretty cool.
and that night we actually sat down together and we watched the entire race because I told him like, dude, I think you could have raced better. And we pulled it up and he actually realized the areas that he could have done better. That's why he came back in the 5K 2 days later and he did much better, which, 5K becomes a sprint race for those guys, right?
That's yeah, that a little bit different of a race where hey, everyone can go really fast for an hour at that
Yep.
national level and up. Um, I mean, that's probably got to be scary having never even seen him race in open water. I mean, I was nervous with the kids that I took up to junior nationals because the last time I had seen them race was either a year ago at open water nationals or like 18 months ago, the last time we hosted the zone open water stuff.
Yeah.
And they had done I think one more race in between. That's that San Diego race that was canceled and rescheduled. But yeah, like I mean, versus in the pool where hey, we see kids race once a month and we see them race every day in practice. Like not knowing what that swimmer thinks about during that 2 hour long race or their fears are ahead of time, like
Yep.
you said,
Yep.
is it's definitely a different coaching experience.
Yeah, man. I mean, the fear was definitely there. We were doing things he had never done before, and I was doing things with him that I did
Yeah,
not do before as a coach. So, but what we tell our swimmers is what you got to trust the process. And every time I felt like, oh man, is this the right path? He looks tired. Is this what? I was like, you know what? I trust the process. It has worked so far. It will continue to work. And if we needed to pivot a little bit, we would. Um, I and here's the thing, hopefully other coaches or if you're new or younger, gotta have people you talk to, right? Gotta have mentors, gotta have a group of people you can go to. Um, we would run sets. I would talk to Jordan, right? Jordan Wolmowski. And he trained, I was part of that when he was killing it from 2016 all the way up to 2020. I think to this day, he's probably the strongest male open water swimmer we've had in the US in the last 5, 6 years.
yeah,
I talked to Jordan. He sent me a bunch of sets he used to do. Oh my God, I was blown away with the work that Jordan was doing. I mean, if at some point you want me, I'll pull him up, see some of
that,
that stuff.
that could be a fun conversation. I
It's just
heard about
gnarly
telehandler
stuff.
workouts before.
Yeah, it's so I got some stuff from him. I was talking to him, and then I ran a couple of those for Ivan, and it wasn't my style, right? It wasn't my style of the way I think. But I'm like, you know what? If this helps, let's see. And I think neither one of us really liked it, right? It's like, oh wow, this is, and if I was scared, I would call up Ron. And well, you are familiar with Ron. And I would call up Ron. I'm like, hey, listen, this is what's going on. I got a little, I don't like what I see. And he would talk to me. He was like, hey, maybe neither one of you see the point in doing something like this. So mentally, you're not ready for it. And so there was definitely a lot of that. Outside of the fear of what is that race going to look like, for me, it was a little less of that and a bit more of, okay, we look tired. We are not firing right now the way we should be. Should we be resting or do we trust and keep moving? And a lot of hiccups. I mean, some of them I cannot necessarily share, but we had ups and downs, like any athlete does, like any coach does. So definitely the fear was there. I used my support group to help me through it, and so did Ivan. He used his support group as well. I mean, he swam with Germantown, so he would get in touch with those coaches and talk to them or see them, and they all told them that they've never seen him this strong. He went over for, I think, Christmas break. He actually went to visit family and saw Coach Schulberg and all those other guys, and they told him like, "Hey, dude, you look better than we remember. So this is great. Just keep up the good work."
That's a huge confident booster right there. Just kind of
100%, right?
going back and hearing from someone other than your current coach, hey, you're doing it. It's going to work out. I mean, that's something that like on just on your own team when you're coaching kids that aren't your actual kids and your groups and stuff. Hey, like you're doing it, and then other coaches on your staff saying the same things. That's a big deal. So that's really cool.
Definitely was. We definitely had the support of a lot of people. And um, down here in California, Ivan worked with Coach Salo, Dave Salo, and we got a lot of support from Dave. And it's funny, back in June of 2022, I talked to Dave. I'm like, Dave, what are your thoughts? Is there anything I need to know about Ivan? Because he recruited Ivan and Ivan swam with him for a little bit. It's like, Mo, maybe you give him a practice to write. Tell him, hey, you're gonna write this practice. See what he likes to, kind of go towards. And we tried that. I gave him Friday mornings. I'm like, Ivan, Friday mornings, you tell me what you want to do. And I think right after Winter Nationals, US Open, he came like, you know what, coach, I don't want to write any more sets. And I feel like it was that moment where it was like 100% all in, like I'll do
Yeah,
whatever you just give me.
he's in when he says that. Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's really cool. Yeah, I don't think I would ever consider letting a kid write their own practice, but at the end of the day, Ivan's not a kid.
Exactly.
He's a man,
Exactly.
and I think that might be the difference. But if I gave a 14-year-old free reign, I might see something really easy or something that I think could kill them
Ridiculous.
all. Right? Like,
Yes.
coach, let's
Dude,
do
yeah.
2200s IM on 4 minutes today instead of 3 minutes or something like that. Like, might be too hard for you all.
Hey, I awarded one of the swimmers. You know her, so I'm not gonna name her. And I'm like, you know what? You've done a great job here. This practice, it's okay. You write it. And gave some parameters. She wrote the practice, came back and said, one, it was very difficult to get everything you wanted done. And two, after practice, like, I don't know if I like that practice. So it was a fun experience.
Yeah, getting everything you want done in one
Yeah,
practice or 1 week is certainly the challenge of planning workouts. That's like, or hey, if I did give that practice to the kids, like I would just be like, this is gonna throw everything off. Like, oh my gosh, too much breaststroke or too much backstroke this week now.
exactly. It's and that was also new for me, right? And it's so crazy. I really believe everything came together for me to be ready to be in a position to work with that next level athlete, right?
100%.
2018 was a changing point, working with John Urbanchek for a week, just talking to the guy who put the color system together. And I was up until like 2 a.m. at OTC, like going over everything he told me during the day, write down my questions, go to practice the next morning, and figure stuff out and ask questions. And that was a turning point for my career.
Yeah.
Fast forward, go ahead.
Mohammed, I mean, this your background, not growing up a swimmer and not having any of kind of that existing knowledge of training, I guess, and those training
Yeah.
experiences yourself, and starting with swim lessons, which I mean, that's I started coaching, teaching kids how to swim on the summer league team. Um, the thing I've always like admired about you is you're never afraid to ask questions. And I mean, I think you've already said it, hey, find a mentor. But coaches, if you're listening, and especially if you're a young coach or you're in a new position or coaching new groups, I think Muhammad would tell you before anyone else, like just ask the questions and find as many different people as possible that you can ask those same questions to.
Well, here I'll share this. I mean, you and I talk about a lot of details in our lives and discuss different things. So I don't mind opening up. The thing is, 2020, COVID hits and you got all these issues. You can't train. 2020, I asked so many coaches from West Coast all the way to East Coast. Anybody I knew, every relationship I had created, I asked questions. What does your weekly plan look like? What do you do here? Do you believe in tracking this? Do you believe in tracking that? And every end of that spectrum, people who are extremely short, sprint oriented in their philosophy, people who think, okay, there is a big um, volume necessary, or hey, you got to do the work this way or that way. I asked everybody, all the big names I knew in the sport. I don't need to go over that necessarily. I asked everybody, and I talked to my brother here, Coach Iman, talk every day. And just since you said, hey, ask the question, you gotta ask the question. What's the worst thing? The worst thing is they don't respond, or they tell you, yeah, I don't know, or they give you a response that doesn't make sense. But you got to keep doing it. By the end of that whole year, it took a year of talking to people, finding different times to talk to people. It just came down to, okay, everybody's doing similar type of work. Yeah, there are differences for sure, but everybody's thinking the same way. The plan that I had was uh, very normal. The biggest thing that happened between 2020 and 2021 of asking questions, I built a relationship with Ron Aitken that I never had before. And guy just became a mentor like I've never had before. Would respond, would answer questions to a point where, I mean, if you remember, December 2021, was it December? Yeah, December 2021 into January 2022. He extended an invitation for me to go up to OTC with him
Yeah.
and just be there. And I did everything I could, and I went there for a week. And honestly, if I had not asked questions and just, even if I knew the answer, I would ask the question. And I'm not saying everybody needs to do what I did or what I did was correct. I just think there are a lot of coaches, one, either too shy to ask questions, too afraid that, oh, what if they say no, too intimidated. These coaches want to share. You just got to find the right time, right? If they got a swimmer swimming in a race at a swim meet, that's not the best time to go ask, right?
Yeah. Ron really doesn't like that one. when I have an idea. I'm just like, oh wow, what about this now? It's like, dude, wrong time. Not thinking about this or you right
Yeah,
now. But I mean, yeah, exactly. Like the I mean, every coach that I've met likes talking swimming. And I think that getting over the fear, or hey, that coach is on a different team than mine, or things like that, like we all like to talk and share. And certainly some people like to share more than others, or will only share that more with others with certain people. But like find that mentor and build that relationship with someone that is just, hey, they're helping you at this point as a friend, not like, hey,
100%.
I'm here to make this guy the best coach they can be. Like, it's different. um what
100%, man.
I mean, you're talking here now, we're talking training plans and things like that, where hey, at the end of the day, a lot of us are doing all the same things. It looks different, it's implemented differently, the sets are different, but the big picture is still online. And something I wanted to ask you, and like we've talked about before, and people ask us questions about open water swimming, like how do you train for open water and the pool at the same time? And like at least on my end, like the answer is, hey, like we're not training for open water. We are training for the 400 IM. We are training for the 1500 free. We're training for the 100 prime stroke. And the open water just kind of, I mean, there's that like training ability, kid needs to be able to hold their pace well to be in consideration for open water. But then there's just that totally different aspect of the races, not even comparable to any pool swim. You have actual strategy. Um, it's 2 hours long for the 10K, an hour for the 5K, an hour and a half for the 7.5K, depending on the age of the kid that you coach.
Yep.
And I mean, like we're still training for the 400 IM at the same time. What does that mean for you, and what have you done differently? Because we have talked about a couple different things we've both done with open water. What have
Yeah.
you done differently to get that open water brain in the right spot versus a kid saying, well, I just did a 400 IM workout 2 days before. How is this going to help me?
So I want to mention this, so we kind of finished that conversation we had about, mentors and training and all that. Um, Hopefully it's worthwhile and people actually take some mental note of some sort. You definitely need a plan, and you definitely need to keep looking at that plan. Anyone who thinks this is the only plan and I don't need to adapt, they've stopped growing 100%. You got to look at that plan and how you can make that plan better, right? I'll just leave that there. If there's no plan, you're not going to be successful. So, finding coaches who are willing to share. Side note, you must do your work, right? As Coach Bowman says, got to do your work even as a coach. And, we can move on. Um, it's so funny because I was involved in the preparation of Jordan, and I've seen other coaches who've put kids on open water or other national teams in the pool do different type of work. And here's what John told me, and you and I have discussed. There are a lot of different ways to get the same outcome. You just got to know which one works for you, trust it, move forward with it, right? For us, again, after the second turning point of my career in 2021, um, for us, it looked different than what Ivan had done before, right? He had a lot of, big volume freestyle, not a lot of little things. We started off by doing 2 lactate sets a week. There were days we would do breaststroke lactate, right?
Yeah, not
So,
something people think about when you're talking open water or 1500 freestyle.
yep. I mean, honestly, short answer to what do you prepare for? We prepare for the pool to be the fastest in the water, in the pool. And Jordan still stops by to swim. couple days ago, he showed up and we're discussing, and he's still so passionate about this, and he's still, I think, on the board or advisory committee, whatever they're called, with open water. And he talks about it like with so much love and passion. It's just so fun to talk to him about. And that's one of the things he said, like all the best in the world are in the 1430s. All the best. That
Next
last
different
loop,
level.
yeah, I mean, the last loop, they're holding double O pace. If you can't keep up with that, and when Ivan came over, my goal was not for him to make the national team. I was coaching him to win nationals. That was like, okay, you know what? We're gonna go win nationals. That's, but I didn't tell him because that would have put a little extra pressure. Like, dude, we're going here to win this damn thing. And we just trained to be the fastest in the water. We made a lot of changes in his stroke. Um, June of 2022, tempo was really, really low. Stroke rate was low. So we made it our goal to get the tempo up super high. Like taking, sometimes he was taking like 17, 18 strokes in 25-yard pool, right? And we got the fast twitch firing a little bit. And then we started holding back, and now we go back down with that stroke rate. Now that stroke can't start coming down to 13 and still moving a lot more water, dialing in all that, and we continue to do that work. We got some weeks we have like 2,000 yards of really short sprints. We started doing work that some of it, the majority of it, he was doing before. What we talked about, a lot of different coaches think the same way. One of the things that were different was doing the lactate, right? It was like he was not used to doing that much lactate before, and we just work with the whole athlete. I am every day there's some form of iron work. We work on all strokes. Their
Yeah,
main set study.
that's like a big opportunity you identified. I mean, like one you just said, hey, most of our stuff is pretty similar, but we found things he wasn't doing, and adding that, leading to change. And certainly, I mean, did you see those types of sets over time, like not affecting, but benefiting his kind of longer, more work where he was able to like either start with more speed or finish with more speed?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, it gave him a gear. Like he's going best times in some events that he didn't think he's going to be able to go best times, right? And I always tell him, this is what I learned from Dave Kelsheimer. Um, it's like the 200 is a piece for the 400. Yes, you might not be a 200 swimmer, but we're working on this because it's a piece for the 400. The 400 is a piece for that 800, right? So when we brought that mindset into practice, I'm like, yeah, I understand you're not going to be a breaststroker. I understand your IM is not necessarily going to be like that. But dude, so at US Open, he made, I think, B final in the 400 IM, I think. And he was like, Coach, all these guys are breaststrokers. They're strong in breaststroke. I think he outsplit it all of them in the breaststroke.
That's great. Yeah, because not
It
that he's
was so
a
much fun.
breaststroker, but he had all that other stuff and that other preparation combined with his background that hey, by the time he got to breaststroke, he probably wasn't as tired. And
He,
like
he
his
wasn't.
how close was his like breaststroke split to his actual kind of best time? And I mean, you probably hadn't done many 200 long course breaststrokes in the fall last year before US
Yeah,
Open.
definitely not. I think he said that was the fastest split breaststroke ever in his career, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
that's pretty cool.
And I mean, we went from like piecing together a schedule for US Open in November. Like literally, he had some qualified events already. He had like 400 IM and the mile from NCAA's. And then we just wanted to add a couple more, the 400 freestyle and the 800. We piece together a schedule. We go in and dude starts like banging out Olympic trial stats. And a few months before, we're struggling to go sub 16 minutes in the mile. Um, and when every race. And here's the thing. Right now, kids are racing all over the country, right? Or races are coming up. One of the things we discussed after the last race is like, Coach, on Wednesday, I felt horrible. Like uh, we arrived, was it Greensboro? We arrived on Monday, kind of, warmed up or practiced Tuesday, and the race was on Wednesday. Like I've never felt that bad on a trip, but I just told myself, you know what? I'm ready. I'm ready to race. I'm ready to race. I'm ready to race. And as soon as he went that time in the first 800, it was like she was so pumped. And he knew that all the work, all those little sprints, all those, longer stuff, the aerobic work, all the stroke work, he he realized that day one of the meal, okay, you know what, I'm ready. Doesn't matter how I feel, right? We tell him like, stop going by feel. It doesn't
That's
necessarily
great.
always need to feel. And you know what? He trusted it. Walls were better. We stayed underwater longer. Like sometimes we do like 1,000 straight, just 25s worth of, we call them sub kicks, submerged kicks, just underwater dolphin kick. And he hates it, and a lot of swimmers do, especially aerobic swimmers. They hate holding their breath. They hate hypoxia.
Oh yeah.
So dude did not like it, but we did. We did things. He's like, Coach, whatever you throw at me, I'm gonna do. And we would do like 1,000 yards of fast underwater dolphin kicks, and it worked. And we're gonna keep doing it. Unfortunately, there was a little setback. He wasn't well, so he's been out of the water for a couple of weeks. When he gets back in the water, we're going to go back doing the work again. Um, so I trusted what I learned from people that I chose to go to, and what I learned from them. I brought it in. We, I told you, I've never seen the guy do open water races, which, if people did missed it, which means we don't have the opportunity to do a lot of open water training in the ocean or lakes around here. We don't do that. We just train to be fast in the pool. This year, we've only had long course on Saturday mornings. That's all we've had.
Wow. Yeah.
Everything else has been short course. And he knows, I know he's a better long course swimmer, right? With most of those open water swimmers, they're
Yeah.
better long course swimmers.
They can swim that consistently after without needing that turn to reset themselves every time. There's certainly a difference
Exactly.
there.
And for Ivan, it's been like, it shuts down his legs. All those turns and all those push-ups, it actually really impacts him negatively. But I think everything we've done has helped him. He believes it. I believe it. Even if it's not, we both believe that it's been helping.
That's huge. Yeah, and we'll look forward to his training next. Not even in the fall. I mean, when he gets back. Um, and
Yeah, we're hoping he would be back in the next week or 10 days
okay,
to get going again.
that's good. And I mean, something it stinks that he's out right now when we want to see the championship season swims. But there's nothing wrong with starting towards 2024 earlier than anyone else. And it's a loss and an opportunity at the same time, but certainly the way things are going, let's wish you the best of luck next year. While we're on the topic of planning and stuff, and just how I want to end
Yeah,
this show every time, going through a workout. So let me pull this
let's
up
do it.
here, and
Yeah,
I'll
let's
get
do
it
it.
shared. I don't know how to do PowerPoint anymore as an old man.
Times are changing, coach.
And now
Times are definitely changing.
I should be using Google Slides for this, but I don't have a template for it. Let's see this. I got a slideshow. Play the slideshow. And let's do this. Look at this beautiful template I have, Mohammed.
Oh, look at that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Wow. Um, So this is our senior elite, which is one of the two groups I coach.
Mm-hmm.
The Sandpipers are kind of level one with some overlap of eighth, ninth, and 10th graders on their team before they're in a national level training group. And this is from July 5th. This was the day after 4th of July. We just had a single on Monday, a single on Tuesday, the 4th of July. And then we had a Wednesday morning, and we did 10 500s long course. I'll go into the specific workout in just a second. There's kind of my end of year progression for our main freestyle work, where on July 5th, we did 10 500s, 20 seconds rest. On 2 days ago, actually on Wednesday, we did 10 400s, 20 seconds rest. And we did 3 broken 500s, 7,500 long course meters. So 10% drop from 1 week to the next in terms of our main kind of highest density practice of the week. And the goal, I calculated what that 10 500 average was and multiplied it by 80% to get their 10 400 target. And the goal was to swim those 10 400s faster than your 10 500s. Didn't really go well. We did have a double on Tuesday this week instead of just a single. So 8 kids were faster, 10 kids were slower. And the reason why we did 3 broken 500s is because we just really had a bunch of kids not try on one of them. So we did an extra one after resetting and hey, it's trying's not optional.
Yeah.
It's time to swim fast. Let's do it again. On Monday, upcoming Monday, we'll do 10 300s plus 1 broken 500 plus 1 broken 200 swim, with the goal now not just swimming faster than your 500 or 400 pace from the previous weeks, but to beat your 2000 for time pace. So we did a 2000 for time long course at the end of May to get our kind of summer training paces at, and I'll multiply that by 1.5 to get a 3000 for time. And hey, we're going to call it a successful day if we can swim 10 300s faster than our 2000 pace. Then whatever, next Thursday, I think it is, we'll be going 10 200 short course yards. Again, thinking about our best 2000 short course yards. That will be on a Thursday afternoon, which is kind of really the last day of workouts before we go into championship meets, where the rest of the week is going to be a little bit easier and more recovery, tuning in, dialing in on starts, turns, finishes type of work. Where the morning we'll go 5,000 long course with some active rest, 400 IM pace work plus 2 broken 500s. The afternoon will be overall lighter, warming up, 10 200s and then a broken 200. And we're right now we're 12 days out. No, it was yesterday. We're 11 days out of our kind of target meets here, which are senior zones and futures. And then my 14 unders will repeat and go to the SCS 14 under age group elite meet following going to zones. So here's how I think of things, where hey, our peak, if you want to call it, in terms of hey, what's the biggest thing we're going to do all year, is 10 500s long course meters. And I'm just using that to kind of go down. I like the 20 seconds rest on these sets instead of intervals, because long course, I've only got 3 or 4 long course meter lanes. And to set intervals for my kids, I would need 8 lanes, because comparatively in long course, that gap between your best kid and your worst kid on any given stroke is now bigger than it is short course yards.
So what's the target of these larger pieces, the 10 5s, 10 4s, 10 3s, 10 2s?
So I really see the 10 5s and the 10 4s as the last pieces of actual work and developmental. We're still getting better when we do these. And even those kids who, hey, they were slower on 10 400s and 10 500s, they still improved that day. And that's 2 weeks out. really one
Is
set.
there a specific heart rate or color or intensity that we're
We go best average, and
okay, okay.
I talk about that in terms of, hey, 10 500s best average is like, at the end of the day, that's white, but it's really hard because you're going for an hour, or really you're going for longer than an hour. If you're feeling pink, that is excellent. And most of the time, I'll show you some results here in a second. Most of the time, kids kind of start off red and
Yeah.
ascend and then hold. And then if we're feeling good, we can descend again and finish around that
Yeah.
red time. But the effort level, I think, is red. The speed and pacing is going to be closer to white and pink, because you just, like, if you can do your red pace for an hour, you've improved. Um,
Yep.
and really, where, hey, on Monday we're going 10 300s. That's 8 days out of our competition. Like, that's not an improvement set. That's a maintenance set based off the 10 500s and 10 400s, where now we're trying to maintain that fitness we've already gained, and hopefully have it be at a higher level. Because now going down, we should see faster speeds on 300s, especially when you compare it to 10 500s. I mean, that's an hour-long set to a 40-minute set. So some results here. Okay. What we did, oh, here's the actual workout. We had a 2200 meters of warm up. I can't share with what it is since I didn't write this set. It's a kind of a team wide warm up that we do. It does
Don't
involve.
worry, I know what it is. I was
I,
able to finally
I'm sure you
get
do
it.
now.
I earned it. I earned it.
Yeah. So I can't share anything that I don't come up with on my own. It does involve coaches, drills, DPS work, and descending, with the idea that, hey, when you're done, you're ready to go, whether that's 10 500s, 500 free for time, and just whatever that next kind of piece of work is, you're ready to go and kids are warmed
All
up.
right, coach, may I just for everybody, hopefully
Yeah, get in
whoever
there.
is listening, just the idea with this all any warm up at swim meets is whatever you've been doing, right? Like
Yeah.
your meet warm up should not be like something completely different. What have you been doing to get your athletes ready to go in training week after week, day after day? Are you doing around 2000, 2500, or are you warming up for like 3000? And all of a sudden your meet warm up is 1500,
Yeah.
2K, 1800. You got to make sure you carry the same thing over. So coaches who are developing meet warm ups, coaches who want to know, okay, what is a good meet warm up? Accumulation of what you've been doing. That involves all the stuff that Jake wrote down here: drills, DPS work, descending work, and getting going. And we've heard other coaches talk about it, right? Um, what's his name? UVA Todd,
Todd was
right?
sold up.
Todd was talking and said that during warm up, they got to get going and they got to hit, I think they call it hard time. If they don't hit it, they got to keep going until they hit it to wake up the body, right?
Yeah.
So that's just the only, side note I want to throw in here, that the
No,
meet
that's
warm up, you got to make sure it's similar to the type of work you do. Not, I cannot run my own thing and then meet warm up, run Jake's warm up. It's not going to work well for my kids.
absolutely not. That's a huge one, Mohammed. Thank you for that interjection. I mean, like, hey, I when I was coaching high school, the first year I had the kids do like the same warm up for meets that I was doing at meets in college, and our train our training wasn't anything like that. Like, I knew it was a good warm up for me, and it took me like half the season to figure out, like, hey, why is the first race of every meet slow for everyone? Oh, I need to change what we're doing to warm up to match our training. And that's just a huge kind of coaching point. So we did this warm up. Um, we did the main set of 10 500s best average at 20 seconds rest. Especially considering this was coming off the 4th of July. we had some really good results. Like everyone was working hard, and it was visibly, hey, like the kids are trying and they're going fast. We did have a couple just like truly all-time bad outliers, um,
Yeah.
that were obvious. I think you get that anytime you do a major set, though. Doesn't matter what it is. But
Yeah. Yeah.
these ones were way, way, way better on their 10-400. So I know it still worked, and they still improved. We then did a broken 500 free, done as a 200, 20 seconds, 150, 20 seconds, 100, 20 seconds, and a 50. And this race pace work at the end was limited to only 3 of the kids in the group who finished before the rest of the group. Just because, hey, this was a 2-hour practice and it's really hard to do 8,000 meters in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So one boy did a broken 500. I had my next 2 finishing boys do a broken 300. And then the rest of the group, I just gave off for any extra speed work at the end, since at least this time, number 10, the kids were cooking, and really just gave it their best effort at the end. It doesn't matter what your average was, like you sprint the last one no matter what. We had 600 cool down. So with what happened here, so like at the worst, the kids swam 7,800 meters. 2 boys swam 8,100 meters and 1 boy swam 8,300 meters, and that was all done in less than 2 hours in the long course pool. So I consider that a pretty successful 2-hour period of getting them worked. And as a coach, I mean, sets like that are challenging and like truly tests of your kind of training capability. It's awesome to coach those, isn't it? Like when
100%.
when you see those kids 20 minutes in, 40 minutes in, 30 minutes into a set, and they are still just grinding it and getting better, and seeing, hey, like you're doing good turns at 3,000 yards, or you're still taking 13 strokes at 4,000 yards, or whatever that kind of skill is that you've been working
Yeah.
on, seeing it go into place. Such a cool feeling. So here's some results, Coach Mo. So one boy, 15-year-old male, he's a U.S. Open qualifier, 1550 in the 1500 free. You know who this is, Coach Mohammad. And
Yes, sir.
hopefully I'll be able to change this slide where it says U.S. Olympic trial qualifier sometime
will.
soon. Yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you. So this workout, he actually got sick at the end of June and missed a week. So this was actually his first workout back, like, which I was super worried about. Like I'm throwing 10 500s at a boy who's sick for 5 days. But at the end of the day, like all the work we'd done before, like we've talked about, like was already there. So it's fine. His white 500 pace is 6:03. His red 500 is 5:45. I like that purple 500 for those broken swim efforts, Mohammed. I've been looking at that when I'm doing those broken 500s. Like, what's your purple 500 time? Because, like, at least for me, at the end of the day, hitting a purple pace 500 straight up in practice is like not possible 99% of the time, or all of the time. I don't know. Like if you're able to do that from a push, you should probably do a new 2,000 per time and make your paces faster. How I think about it. And then I included his white times there because I've got those results for the 10-400s the next week. White time 400 450, red 400 436, and pretty cool on both of these. His first 500 he was 546, so right off that red pace. And then his first 400 he was 434, so a little faster than red pace. So like I said, hey, we're seeing kids start these sets really hard. And then we went 552 again. So a 6-second drop off, like 1 second per 100, but still holding it. Then 555, 552 again, 553, 551. So in this case, that kind of drop was like immediate after number 1. Hey, I can't hold red pace. I can't actually go red 10 times. Here's that a little bit slower, but still really hard effort.
Yep.
And then we just had an awful one on number 8, which was 6:03. So he goes from holding like like basically adding 10 seconds to his current average, going 6:03. Then number 9, 5:48, bringing it down. I don't know if this was a save up 500, or I think I kind of remember on some of these he was having trouble passing people. Again, we're doing this in 3 lanes, long course.
Yeah.
There's 8 boys going way slower than him in the lane. And then number 10 going 5:46, bringing it back down to that red time. The second week on 10,400, so now he's been in the water for a week after being sick, I think went a lot better. Like he went 4:34 on number 1, so faster than red pace. 4:37 on number 2, just 1 second slower. So still a true red effort there. Then 4:40, 4:41, 4:39, 4:38. Slowest one being 4:42, but that's still 8 seconds faster than his white 400 time. 4:39, 4:36, and then finishing with a really good 4:27.
So
Yeah. So like when you're seeing kids swim these longer sets, Mohammed, what are things that you look for?
biggest thing is engagement and desire to get better,
Yeah.
right? If like I look at this result and I'm like, you know what, this is actually pretty good. If I'm on deck running this set and then I have a swimmer go 6:03, I'll
Oh,
probably gonna be a little upset, right?
oh my gosh, dude. Yeah, like I was
Yeah,
just like, dude, what are you doing on this one? You got
exactly.
2 more. That was 12 seconds slower, bud. Get it together. So
It's and I mean, and that's the thing. That's we discuss it a lot. Our goal is to always get them ready for the next level, right?
yeah.
Doesn't matter what level you're coaching. You have another group on your team, or you are the last group, and you want to coach them up for that next step or next level. It could be college. It's I don't think we can coach their desire to want to get better. It's said like that. That so I wrote a similar set at some point, and I was actually talking to Ron. I'm like, man, they didn't do it as well as I wanted them to do, and should I be concerned? I was like, you know what? No, not really, because maybe they just don't fully understand how this could help them, right? And that's what I mean. Like, okay, when I look at it, so what you said on number 4, are you still aware of your stroke count? Are you still holding your hips up? Are your turns getting sloppy? Have I lost you mentally? Are you still mentally engaged?
Yeah, and I mean that's like I think a lot of people when we talk about like distance based swim training, they like think we're not actually coaching kids. Like during the 10,500s, like sure, I talked to kids about their effort. Like, hey, on that 6:03, I definitely told him he was way slower, or seen that. But like, hey, I noticed, and 20 seconds is enough time, or 30 seconds is enough time to talk to a kid about a skill. Hey, your turns, you started breathing your first stroke off the wall again. Take 1 stroke without a breath. You went from 3 underwater kicks on number 1, and now you're doing 1 because you're tired. Well, now that's making you more tired. Go back to 3. And coaching, we're coaching the swimming during the set, not necessarily coaching the time. And I think that's something that has been super important for me in terms of, hey, most of the time before we do a big freestyle set, we are doing drills and DPS work, and bringing the effort, physical effort, back to the mental effort of improving your technique, improving your skills together is what makes these kind of sets work. Because it's not just
100%.
work
100%.
to physical work. It's, are you executing on the things you've learned as well?
It's And to be fully honest, my style, my philosophy of coaching is not always running multiple 500s, 400s, and stuff like that, right? And I know this is not what you do on a daily basis either, right? It's just like, oh, well, we're going to go 10 500s of this every single day, or it's, and That's what
Never.
there are. The distance, like, people are like, oh, distance training. If you do quality distance training, you're actually getting a lot of great coaching,
Yeah.
right?
And
Quality distance training, you're getting a lot of coaching
certainly,
because you're not just going back and forth.
yeah.
There is a purpose for every stroke you take. And that's the biggest thing I we focus on, at least within TSM, is teaching kids to be coachable. What does it mean to be coachable? And making sure you're making changes. Yeah, something worked a year ago. Great. Right now, your body's not even the same as it was a year ago. So if we need to make a change here, let's be open to that. And a lot of coaches like to, pause practice for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, work technique or drills. If this is what I believe, if you're taking more than 30 seconds to tell a swimmer to make a change, you've lost that swimmer. That you just
Yeah.
either don't know your swimmer that well, or you just don't know how to articulate it. It needs to be, as you said, 30 seconds, plenty of time to tell that kid, hey, hold your head down for one stroke off the wall.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, you've already talked about it with open water training. Hey, training for the 10K open water meant doing lactate breaststroke this year. Um, that's not something people necessarily think. And certainly, I mean, as you said, hey, this is not what we do every day. Um, this is our kind of peak. I don't know, aerobic. I don't consider this stuff necessarily aerobic, though. I think it's a little faster than that um, type of work.
I think
And
the most important part is, and you said it, even within your group, there are kids who fully trust it, who do what they need to do, and some kids are like, mentally at least, like, oh man, why are we like the 10-5s? Come on. And that's the thing. As a coach, honestly, if I do not have my philosophy and if I do not stand by it and move forward, my swimmer will not be successful. And I'm just saying my own name because I don't want to say you as a coach
yeah,
or others. Coaches must have their own philosophy.
yeah,
You have to. Yes, it's scary, right? Oh, what if I make a mistake? There's no other way to learn. There's no other way to learn. I was at a
it's
swim meet
certainly
this morning.
scary.
Very. I was at a swim meet this morning, and one of my swimmers did not have a good swim yesterday, and they were nervous this early to this morning. I'm like, listen, even if you want to learn to walk, kids who learn to walk fall down. I You cannot give up after the first time you fall down. You never see a parent look at a little kid who falls down and like, you know what, walking is not for this kid. They should
Walking's
not
not for
be.
you, son. You
It's
tripped.
just, and that's the biggest thing. I think in us, coaches who coach distance are very patient, right?
Yeah,
They're very patient. And people sometimes say, oh, well, when you've done it at a high level, you fully respect every distance and understand how much work goes into it. It's not easy to be holding minute on, for 1500.
no,
It's not easy. It's not easy holding 58s. It's not easy. It's none of it is easy. It's not easy going under 21 second 50 freestyle long course. It's not easy, right? It's And it's not like, you're turning kids into distance swimmers because you like to do 10-5s. Because I know you have kids who are sprint oriented and you work sprint work with them, right? You and I have discussed, okay, doing power stuff in training. How
yeah,
do we, how do we make that better? How do we make, like, there was a set I ran a few weeks ago, 40-25s on a minute all out.
oh yeah, you told me.
And it hurts. It hurts. And people, oh, well, distance, you guys. No, if you have the right athlete,
Yeah,
right? All of it
uh,
works.
the
All
way
of it works.
I think about what I'm doing is, first of all, Like, I mean, I'm coaching younger kids too, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. So
Mm,
this part I think is it's definitely more important. And I think it's also a little easier. Like, first of all, these kids should be going best times in every event throughout the season. Like your first swim early in the season to your second swim, even if that's not a race you're going to wear a tech suit in, you go best time by the end of the season in every event 50, 100, 1650, 200 breast, 100 fly, whatever. And then, second of all, like what a kid is naturally not, I don't want to say naturally good at, but naturally suited for, since there's both the physical side of things and the mental aspect of a kid in terms of what events they select as their own. Like, you're going to get good at everything, and you're going to get better at the things that you like and the things that you're naturally suited towards. Um,
yeah.
we see big improvements in distance races a lot of times because, hey, it's when a kid was bad at it or scared of it when they were young, it's not hard to see a minute drop in a 1650 for a 14-year-old in 1 year. Um, like that just looks like, oh, you're doing more distance stuff. They dropped a minute versus 2 seconds in the 50 free when the kid was already 23 in the 50 free and now they're 21. Like that's a big improvement. 2 seconds in the 50 free, and seeing that difference there. But certainly, like if you're coaching, and I don't do separate groups, separate kind of breakout groups with this younger group that I coach. I do with my older kids, but if you're not seeing an improvement in the event a kid is best in, you probably need to reassess something, right? And no matter what, hey, I'm a sprint coach, but that kid's a 500 freestyler. They should still be getting better at that 500 free, in addition to those shorter end races that your team focuses on. Likewise, the opposite way. Hey, I really want my kids to be great at the 400 IM, but I can't sacrifice the 50 free or the 100 of stroke to get that done.
And that's the thing, man. If you're doing balanced work, I believe that 100%. If you're doing balanced work, you will see success all season long. Um, you see improvements not just during the sets. I've seen with different swimmers, not every swimmer always going to be there, right? You do the same type of work with all the kids in the group, let's say. Some of them get more out of it than others. Just everybody has different circumstances, and some of us allow ourselves to be defined by those circumstances. So that just takes over. But then some of us are like, you know what? I got to get the work done. Whatever that work is, doesn't matter what you want to be successful in, you got to do the work. Without doing the work, and when we say do the work, it doesn't mean every day you go 10 500s. No, that's not what it is, right? I mean, we can sit here for another hour and go over like the, weekly
Yeah.
stuff. What do you do here and there? But the biggest thing is for me, honestly, is what you said. Does the kid have the desire to do well in something specific? I had a swimmer, we after we came out of the, quarantine and all that stuff over COVID, futures, I guess, yeah, let's say June, around June, they were kind of made fun of by their peers from other teams about the backstroke starts. And this was something that we had talked about for years. Like, hey, listen, you got to pay attention. Yes, I know you like to do these longer events, but as an athlete, you should have a good backstroke start. It doesn't look good. It's slow and doesn't look good. They got really upset. Like, Mo, I really want to work on this. I'm like, okay, great. Ended up being the fastest long course backstroker we had on the team that summer, and to this day, still those records stand because they had the desire. You know what? I'm going to get better in this area.
They picked something of their own to get better at.
And that's the thing. You and I cannot force, if you and I or other coaches, if we have to coach energy and desire, it, they're in the wrong field, let's call it.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, hey, like part of coaching is like, I mean, moving moving a kid from one commitment level. I mean, commitment level to a higher one. But yeah, on a daily basis, if the kid doesn't want to do the work that day, if we're just talking really micro here, there's
Yeah.
almost nothing a coach can do to get that out of them because that choice was already made. Like where you're talking earlier, hey, don't worry about how you're feeling. Some kids hop in the pool and warm up and they're like, I'm sore. And then that just totally kills their whole hour or 2 hours of their practice because they said I'm sore and let that say that means I'm slow or I should not try today so I don't get more sore. Like on the other hand, the kid that comes in and says I'm sore, I'm still going to try. Hey, what do we usually find out? You can still swim fast, and
It's
that's a
it's
big
part of our,
difference right there.
I mean, part of our job is to educate, right? We got to educate the kids, the families, what it means to chase your goals and how can you achieve any goal, academic or athletic or, even outside of all that. Part of our job is, okay, educate. There comes a point where, okay, well, you have all the tools, right? There's nothing I can do when you decide to stay up until 1 a.m. before Saturday morning practice. Like that's just outside of my control, right? There's nothing I can do to help this kid who goes to 603 in the 500 if I'm not streamlining off the wall, not keeping my head down off the wall, not holding my stroke, not counting my stroke. So, and that's what I mean. And that comes higher level, like the more senior level, older athletes. If you work with younger kids, it's on you. It's on the coach,
Yeah,
right? It's on the coach.
every
And
every year a kid gets older, and certainly at that like 14-year-old age, like they need to start taking more accountability for those little things every year and every year. Yeah. 8 year olds or when you're teaching kids how to swim, like you're the accountable one as a coach or instructor. But at a certain point for your kid to be great, they're gonna have to take a lot of that on their own.
it is, and again, we've all been there, right? I've been in that position where I'm like, okay, it's always all on me. Or like, man, well, I shouldn't be telling you this. We all make mistakes. I mean, if you and I talk and look back 10 years ago, the sets we used to ride, woo, those look different.
I was an idiot.
Those look different. Hey, right now I look at some of the sets from 2 years ago. I'm like, man, I don't think like that right now.
Big changes happen in 2 years. That's
It's
something that's interesting to always look at and like, hey, coaches, like you should keep track of your workouts some way so that you can go and look back and see what you were doing and hey, maybe some of the things worked well and you start doing them again that you forgot about. I've done that. But at the end of the day, hey, here's where I'm at now and here's where I was at. If you're feeling good with where you're at now, that can make a big difference.
100% it. Not only keeping track of what you do, also surrounding yourself with people on the pool deck
Yeah.
who, one, you trust their opinion, two, you tell them, like, okay, do you have any feedback for me? I'm blessed to be working with coaches like that, specifically my own brother on the pool deck. And it's easy because he doesn't have to hold back, right? He doesn't have to hold back, and we talk to each other and step in and see things that the other one's not seeing. Either like, dealing with an athlete or a type of set, or like, oh, well, I saw your swimmer did this. I think this is what you got to do. 2 weeks ago, I'm away at nationals or world trials, and all my swimmers are swimming with Iman, and we're on the phone talking about one of his swimmers. Well, yeah, I'm going to try this and that. I'm like, I suggest, you know, resetting the stroke in this way. Try it out. See what you see. And it's having that is for me is great. Having someone like you when you and I are texting, you jump on the phone and like, hey, we're doing this. What are your thoughts here? What are you doing? How would how would you break a 500? I would break it differently, right? Um,
Yeah.
and you try a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Um, to me, that does not mean you don't know what you're doing. To me, that means, okay, I'm doing everything I can to provide my athlete with the best that there is out there to the best of my knowledge. Now, is this working for this athlete? To me, at the end of the day, it goes back on them. Do they trust you enough to do the work? You and I were sitting down with Gary, right? Thomas's coach
Yeah.
weeks ago. And he said the same thing, I think. It was like, well, we do this and that, and some of the sets are similar. It's not something insanely special, but Thomas decides to do the work and do the extra work.
Yeah, I mean, Gary was talking about just his underwater kick count discipline. And hey,
He just wants to do
takes
8 kicks.
takes a special type of kid to do 8 kicks at race pace more than one time or more than 3 times, and he's
Yeah.
repeating. So Mohammed, that's all the time I have here since I think we both have practices to get to sometime soon.
Yeah,
Um,
I got to get going within the next 30 minutes.
Perfect. That's my timing too. Is there like at least in terms of hey, how I want to end this, like what are 2 pieces of advice you have for coaches listening right now?
One, trust yourself.
Hard.
If you're watching this, yeah, I mean, if you're watching this, honestly, it means you're doing everything you can for your athletes, right? Trust yourself. Trust that gut more than you think. Two, get in touch with people. Build your community, honestly. And you're more than welcome to include my info, put my email. If people reach out, I can share my number. I've given my number to people back from Iran who want to coach to try to do what I can for
That's
them and
awesome.
get on the phone and build your community. You need a community. If you love what you're doing, you gotta bring people around you who love what they're doing. I mean, you and I are sitting here because we're dumb enough who are just all in. I mean, we're not, who are we kidding? We're not going to make a lot of money as some coaches, right?
No.
So we're not in it for the money. Every, few years you change swimmers, so we're not in it for a specific swimmer. Right? It's just we love what we do. We love working with these kids, and you surround yourself with people who are like that. You elevate each
Yeah,
other. Those are
you're gonna get
honestly,
better as a coach if you are around other coaches who love what they're doing. I love
right?
that, Mohammed.
100%, man. I'm always open. I've told everyone who's helped me that I will pass it on. And those who are interested, I'm not saying, you know, I'm not saying anything about myself as a coach. I've seen a lot of different coaches work with a lot of high level athletes and coaches, and there is something I can offer. Just reach out, let's talk. That's it. Trust yourself, build a good team around yourself. That's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mohammed. We'll
But you
talk
didn't
again.
share yours. What are your thoughts? What are your advice?
My two
Yeah.
thoughts today. Um, I think number one, record what you're doing and review what you're doing. Just making sure, like, I mean, I certainly think about workouts that went bad a lot, but I think my second piece of advice. So number one, record and just review in general what you're doing so you can compare it over time. But number two, like, don't just say a workout was good and be really happy with it. Like, review the workouts that went well just as much, if not more, than the workouts that went poorly. Because it's easy, like, hey, that workout went bad, and here's why. It's not so easy to say that workout was really good, and here's why. But those good things you want to be repeating, and those bad things you either want to be changing or getting rid of completely, so that way you're not dealing with that again. And like just that continuous improvement process of reviewing the things that you're doing good, do more of those things.
Perfect, man. Perfect. This
Awesome.
was fun. I definitely enjoyed the time. Let's do it again for sure.
Absolutely. And everyone, that's it for today. That's episode 1 of the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you all.